I'm glad to see you all. I'm glad you're still tuning in and haven't given up on me. It makes me feel good when I see the people have actually followed along and are keeping up with the reading. So, anyway, when we left off, Bryce had told his mom about the eggs, and she was really good about it. And she was very supportive and was like, "Yep, I'm guessing you've learned your lesson." But then she also said, "Now, didn't I hear you promise you'd mow the lawn today?" Love when we moms use stuff like that against us. "Right," I said, and headed out to trim the turf. That evening, my mother announced that the bakers would be over Friday night at 6 o'clock, that the menu included poached salmon, crab risotto, and fresh steamed vegetables, and that none of us had better weasel out of being there. My dad muttered that if we were really going to do this, it would be a whole lot better to barbecue, because at least that way he'd have something to do. But Mom positively smoked him with her eyes, and he dropped it. So they were coming, and it made seeing Julie at school even more uncomfortable than usual. Not because she gushed about it or even waved and winked or something. No, she was back to avoiding me. She'd say hi if we happened to run into each other, but instead of being like right over my shoulder anytime I looked, she was nowhere. She must have ducked out back doors and taken roundabout ways through campus. She was, I don't know, scarce. I found myself looking at her in class. The teacher would be talking, and all eyes would be up front, except mine. They kept wandering over to Julie. It was weird. One minute I'd be listening to the teacher, and the next I'd be completely tuned out, looking at Julie. It wasn't until Wednesday in math that I figured it out. With the way her hair fell back over her shoulders and her head was tilted, she looked like the picture in the paper. Not just like it. The angle was different, and the wind wasn't blowing through her hair, but she did look like the picture. A lot like the picture. Man, he is really studying her, isn't he? Making that connection sent a chill down my spine, and I was worried. What was she thinking? Could she really be that interested in root derivations? Darla Tressler caught me watching, and man, she gave me the world's wickedest smile. If I didn't do something fast, this was going to spread like wildfire. So I squinted at her and whispered, "There's a bee in her hair, stupid," and then pointed around in the air like, "There it goes." Darla's neck whipped around, searching for the bee, and I straightened out my focus for the rest of the day. The last thing I needed was to be scorched by the likes of Darla Tressler. That night, I was doing my homework, and just to prove to myself I'd been wrong, I pulled that newspaper article out of my trash can. And as I'm flipping it over, I'm telling myself, it's a distortion of reality. It's my imagination. She doesn't really look like that. But there she was, the girl in my math class, 2 rows over and 1 seat up, glowing through the newsprint. Lynetta barged in. "I need your sharpener," she said. I slammed my binder closed over the paper and said, "You're supposed to knock." And then, since she was zooming in and the paper was still sticking out, I crammed the binder into my backpack as fast as I could. "What are you trying to hide there, baby brother?" "Nothing, and stop calling me that. And don't barge into my room anymore." "Give me your sharpener and I'm history," she said with her hand out. I dug it out of my drawer and tossed it at her. And sure enough, she disappeared. But 2 seconds later, my mom was calling for me, and after that, well, I forgot that the paper was in my binder. Until first period the next morning, that is. Man, what was I supposed to do with it? I couldn't get up and throw it out. Garrett was right there. Besides that, Darla Tressler's in that class, and I could tell she was keeping an eye out for wayward bees. If she caught wind of this, I'd be the one to get stung. Then Garrett reaches over to snag a piece of paper like he does about 14 times a day, only I have a complete mental spaz and slam down on his hand with mine. Dude, what's your problem? Sorry, I say, tuning into the fact that he was only going for lined paper, not newspaper. Dude, he says again, you've been really spaced lately. Anyone else tell you that? He rips a piece of paper out of my binder, then notices the edges of the newspaper. He eyes me, and before I can stop him, he whips it out. I pounce on him and tear it out of his hands, but it's too late. He's seen her picture. Before I can say a word, I get in his face and say, "You shut up, you hear me? This is not what you think." Whoa, kick back, will ya? I wasn't thinking anything. But I could see the little gears go click, 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 click in his brain. He smirks at me and says, "I'm sure you've got a perfectly reasonable explanation for why you're carrying around a picture of Julie Baker." The way he said it scared me, like he was playing with the idea of roasting me in front of the whole class. I leaned over and said, "Zip it, will ya?" The teacher hammered on us to be quiet, but it didn't stop Garrett from smirking at me or doing the double eyebrow wiggle in the direction of my binder. After class, Darla tried to act all cool and preoccupied, but she had her radar up and pointed our way. She shadowed me practically all day, so there was no real window of opportunity to explain things to Garrett. What was I going to tell him anyway? That the paper was in my binder because I was trying to hide it from my sister? Yeah, that would help. Besides, I didn't want to make up some lame lie about it. I actually wanted to talk to Garrett. I mean, he was my friend, and a lot had happened since it happened in the last couple of months that was weighing on me. I thought that if I talked to him, maybe he would help me get back on track, help me to stop thinking about everything. Garrett was real reliable in that area. Luckily, in social studies, our class got library time to do research for our famous historical figure report. Darla and Julie were both in that class, but I managed to drag Garrett into a back corner of the library without either of them noticing. And the minute we were by ourselves, I found myself laying into Garrett about chickens. Chickens? What? I think that maybe Bryce is starting to maybe have some feelings for Julie. We'll find out next time. Thanks for tuning in. Stay healthy, stay safe, be kind to one another.